Somehow plastic became so woven into daily life that we stopped noticing it. From the time we wake up till the time we go to bed, our lives are full of plastic. Honestly, it kind of feels like a manifestation of the world we're living in today, where everything feels a little bit fake. Plastic is out here surrounding every area of our life, and it's in so many things that people don't even realize. It touches our food, our water, our clothes, our kitchens, our beauty products, even the air we breathe. And most of us didn't consciously choose any of it. We did not consent to a world consumed with plastic. It happened slowly on that altar of convenience where we traded little bit by little bit of beautiful, solid, handcrafted materials for plastic. Convenience became our culture. Disposable became normal, and cheap became efficient. And there's a million different layers of this that we could talk about. But what I want to focus on today is that somewhere along the way, we went from living with natural materials to living almost entirely inside a synthetic bubble. So what does that mean for us, friends? Because honestly, we've gotten to the point where this is not fully reversible. This whole thing is not going to be fully cleaned up until Jesus comes back and he sweeps house and gives us a new earth. What can we do in our daily life to reduce our exposure to some of these things? And how profoundly are they affecting our bodies? This video today is not going to be me telling you to overhaul your whole life. We cannot completely escape from the plastic, friends. This is going to be me giving you some of the practical examples of the things that I've walked through in my healing journey. When my eyes began to be open to this plastic apocalypse that we find ourselves living in. And it's a crazy history of how glass became plastic and wood became plastic and cotton became plastic. And it's not even just about the health stuff. We've talked about this before, that things have stopped being built to last. All of these little plastic pieces on everything crack and break so quickly, and we find ourselves replacing so many things in daily life that used to last people for generations. Hello there and welcome in. It is a rainy spring day here. Very moody, very cozy, and I am okay with that. Do you want to talk about something real life? So these are fantastic microphones, okay? These are some of the best ones that I've ever had. This is obviously plastic, okay? There's a little hinge piece back here, and most of this stuff back in the day used to be made with metal parts. Now a lot of it's made with plastic. So this is a fantastic, outstanding microphone, truly. But the little hinge piece, and not a cheap microphone, mind you, the little hinge piece broke. So I now have to get a new one of these clippy things. Is it the end of the world? No. But I do recall a time, even in my lifetime, in the last 40 years, where you didn't have to replace the clippy thing every 3 months. You know, we're at the end of the trail. I think a lot of us, we realize that, okay, there's a lot of things that have just gone to a certain point that they're not coming back from. There's stuff now embedded into the soil and into the water and into the air that is just not going anywhere until Jesus hits the reset button. What I have learned in my healing journey is that there are things that I can do as I am tending my corner of earth. This is the big theme in my Lost Art of Living book, Finding Our Way Back. Recognizing the things that are within our realm of control to be diligent about, to steward over, to pray about, to be wise about, and then all of the things going on around us that we don't have control over, to open our hands and surrender them to God and trust and have faith that He is a good and faithful Father. He is a protector, and we can hide in the shadow of His wing, even in a world that feels like it is throwing everything against us. So I'm going to share with you just some of the things that I've done to detox some of the plastic out of my life. I certainly am not plastic free. Even if I purchase something that's all bamboo, it comes in some sort of plastic. This is just what it is. And I recognize the fact that they have priced so many people out of better quality things, which makes me really pretty angry that they've polluted city water so bad that nobody should be drinking it. Absolutely nobody should be drinking city water. We should all have access to water that's not solely poisoning us, and we should not have to buy a water filtration system. So just know that that is my heart that I'm coming from today. This is not some elitist chat about how you need to overhaul your whole life. These are practical things that I have walked through in my journey, and some of them might apply to you and some of them might not. But in my heart of hearts, it actually makes me really mad that they have turned regular things into a premium, into a luxury, like organic food that used to just be food, free of the pesticide. We just want the food without the pesticide, right? Is that so much to ask? I would like cotton leggings that don't have plastic woven into them and not have to pay a premium, like people used to be able to do. These were things that people in low-income families had access to. Real wood, real fabrics, real things. And now we live in a world of fakeness and shenanigans, and all of that is manifested itself. It's gone from the spiritual into the physical, to the hearts of men and into the physical world, where so many of the things that we touch and interact with today are fake. They are counterfeit from the things that God intended us to interact with. And as I talk about all the time, the farther and farther we get away from the design of God for our lives, the more dysregulation and disease we are going to experience. The more dysregulation mentally and spiritually we are going to experience. And then the closer we can pull back to the design of God for how He intended human beings to live, what He intended us to interact with, the more healing can take place when the right elements are introduced into the garden of our body and our mind and our soul. We are able to then heal because those built-in complex mechanisms that He put in us are activated with the right things, and we can thrive. So that's what this is about today, is helping us just move that post in some areas of life a little bit back towards God's design for living. And living in a plastic landfill with microplastics and everything going in our bloodstream and in our brain, that is not how God designed us to live. Our bodies are sensing those microplastics or the high levels of metals that we're exposed to today as foreign invaders, thus triggering autoimmune responses and chronic inflammatory responses. So the less plastic that we can interact with in certain ways today in our regular life, it's going to help us. The reason I even set out on this journey in the first place was to try to help heal my hormones. When I started on my healing journey, I was in just the lowest of the low place with my health and the endometriosis and the hormone imbalance and the chronic migraines, everything that was coming forth from the endometriosis. And one of the things that I began to do was understand deeper endocrine disruptors and what plastic was doing to all of the mechanisms of my body. So this has been one major element of that. And I did it in stages. I didn't have the budget to do it all right away, and I did it in stages. And I think that when we are just willing to apply wisdom in stages, I think that that can go a really long way. And one of the things I want to say, a big thing with plastic is whether or not you are heating up what is inside the plastic. I'm going to flash back to the morning, up to the bathroom with you for a minute and show you these plastic squeeze bottles that I have that I refill and reuse for hair products. And then we'll come right back so that you can see how I use it in terms of utilizing things that are refillable instead of one-time use, and also utilizing it for products where I'm not going to be heating it up. We finally got the skylight replaced in here after the neighbor's tree fell on it many moons ago. So there's actually some light in here again, which is nice. These are reusable plastic squeeze bottles. So these are plastic, but they are refillable, and I will use these over and over and over again, basically till the wheels fall off or till something breaks, which with plastic, eventually something's gonna break. But these have been pretty sturdy, pretty aesthetic looking. They look like glass. I prefer to store my stuff in glass, especially long term. If it's going to be in the sun, if there's going to be any heat introduced, I store my Epsom salts in glass. There's just a few things like squeeze bottles that are hard to come by in glass, and I like to get the nozzle right onto my scalp. This is my apple cider vinegar rinse that I make. This one I will do a clay wash for my hair, or I will make an herbal rinse. So I don't ever put any hot liquid in these, and I'll just keep using these over and over and over again, making choices slowly over time that are best for us, that work for our house, that work for our family. It's really all that we can do. I'm really happy to be working with Suri again because this is my toothbrush of choice and I love this. It has this slim aluminum design, so we're reducing plastic. The bristles, and I'm really particular about putting the plastics in my mouth, the bristles are plant-based from the castor oil plant. The company will actually recycle the tips for free for you if you send them in. They come in all of these beautiful different aesthetic colors, but they are lightweight. They don't take a whole bunch of bulky room up. The manual plastic ones, you have to get rid of them a lot, and the bristles are typically always plastic. I have tried using wooden, like bamboo toothbrushes, and just my teeth, I can't stand the sensation of the wood on my teeth. So that didn't work for me. So this is my toothbrush of choice. A lot of the other electric toothbrushes, they take up a lot of room. They're bulky. You have to keep charging them all the time. And this one, they have a magnetic clip that you can mount it right to your mirror and get it up off the counter. Or you can store it in this UV case. And this is one of my favorite features because I can pop it in here, push the button, and it's going to sanitize this. So because I'm particular about not eating a whole lot of plastics and about sensations, this is wonderful because this just feels like a massage. Pop it in here and put it away. It's a nice sleek look, and I know that I am doing something good for my mouth and good for the earth. And I'm a big fan of how long the charge lasts, which is just perfect for everyday life, but also for travel. So if you are interested in Suri, checking out all of the cool colors and features they have, and you want to get 15% off and find out why I love this toothbrush so much, you can get all of the information linked in the description box and pinned in the comments below. So here are the bottles. You can see the new skylight. Yes, that's a hole that's getting fixed in a couple days, but at least we have the new skylight and everything's all patched up nicely and secure. So here's the bottles that I put my hair care in, reusable and refillable. If you are into all kinds of natural hair care and skincare, I think you're going to be really happy about a channel that we have launching later this year, but you gotta stay tuned. You gotta stay tuned. Researchers are now finding microplastics, so small little particles that we can't even see of plastic are finding themselves into our bloodstreams, our brains, and the placentas between baby and mama. When they did these studies, they found the microplastics in 100% of the people. So that is what's going on. So we have them. Now we just need to have the conversation of how do we reduce the toxic load so that when something bigger comes along, the body's not super exhausted from fighting every single day and it can handle it better. So I have a free blog article I did a few months ago on daily detox things that I do, just ways to help keep your detox pathways open on a regular basis, nothing crazy. I also have some things that I go into deeper in my 30-day glow up reset challenge. If you haven't taken that challenge yet, I've had thousands of women take that challenge. I have a video for every single day of the 30 days. There's a private link on every day that you can click on to get a message from me so you don't feel like you're doing it alone. So if you feel like you need a reset, you need to just kick that lifestyle in gear, you need some advice, but you have trouble at sticking with these things, this might be the thing for you to help you launch into a lifestyle that's going to be more nourishing and more healing for you without having to kind of throw your whole life into a tizzy. So World War II, they used, people always ask me in the comments when I say they, who's they? Sir, ma'am, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. That's the point we're at. We could do a whole video on who's they. I could do that. But they used World War II and World War I, but World War II especially, they used that to bring a lot of things into the world under people's noses because people were so distracted with what was going on. And with the Great Depression, when people are in survival mode, you can bring a lot of things in and you have justifications for them, and people will receive and accept them better and more readily and more rapidly than if people are thriving and they're thinking and they're nourished and they're like, I don't know about that. So you can get to people when they're tired, you can get to people when they're fearful, or you can get to that part of the human spirit that constantly wants convenience and comfort. And there's nothing wrong with comfort unless we've turned it into an idol. But the theys of the world know that if they push certain agendas that require an increased level of convenience and things being fast, that people will take it if it makes their life feel easier. Plastics exploded after World War II because factories already producing wartime synthetic materials pivoted into consumer products. One of the things that I like people to know is that canola oil was originally a commercial product used for machinery. And then they switched it over to a consumer product. You just tweak it a little and you shift it to a consumer product. So I would suggest not ever using canola oil or vegetable oil ever again on anything, in anything, unless you're working on your car and you need a lubricant. So synthetic materials skyrocketed. The production skyrocketed in the late 40s and early 50s. After all the stress of the war and the Depression, there was a huge push towards convenience, disposability, and a more modern, carefree life. And here's this thing to make it easier, and here's this thing to make it easier, and I get it. There are some things that do make the day easier and take things off your plate, and it's like, oh, I'm so glad that I have that. But when we get caught in this mindset where we're always running away from having to learn how to do things, having to put our hands to the plow, having to work diligently, when we're always running away from that, we're always trying to find the next faster thing, we are really susceptible and vulnerable as individuals and as a society to a lot of these agendas. We went from knowing how to repair things to just constantly replacing things. And you just fast forward 1-2 generations and no one knows how to fix things. People don't know how to cook. They don't know how to fix things. They don't know how to preserve things. And now we find ourselves in this situation where we are more and more and more dependent on the people that do know how to create these things. And they're creating these things en masse. And so we become dependent on these systems. And I personally think that they did this super fast. It's a mixture of impressive and diabolical, honestly. And so because they had to begin producing things in mass, so it wasn't just local craftsmen creating things. Now it was machinery was coming in, and another wave of the Industrial Revolution, and a focus on disposability, and a focus on modern comfort culture. And now we're producing more and more in mass. We're producing food in mass. Grocery stores are opening. So we need all of these warehouses and all of this stuff being mass produced. So what is going to happen? Naturally, the companies are going to want cheaper materials. If you have transportation more and more in mass, the population is growing. You're going to want cheaper and cheaper materials to accommodate the growing mass system. We see the shift from durable materials to more disposable materials, cheaper, flimsier. And then we start seeing injected into society planned obsolescence, where a lot of these cheaper materials, they break in a certain amount of time and you have to replace them. Perfect marketing scheme, perfect business scheme for any type of corporation. Yeah, we'll sell it to them, and instead of them knowing how to repair it or preserve it, or instead of it lasting for a generation, they can pass it down to their kids, we'll just make it out of plastic. It'll break, and then they'll have to buy another one, thus doubling our revenue. And unfortunately, most people didn't stop to ask, well, what's the trade-off here? Our health, our fertility, the animals, the sea life, the beauty of the world around us. And this is where we start to see a couple generations later, and we see the complete fallout. And there are so many things contributing to what we see today. But microplastics in particular, in my humble opinion, with all the research that I've looked at, are very responsible for affecting fertility. I think there's a lot of things coming against that today, but microplastics are a big part of it. Endocrine disruptors. Microplastics are creating health issues. 100% absolutely. Microplastics are affecting us, they're affecting the animals, they're affecting the state of the earth. Water, processed foods, dust particles, synthetic clothing, receipts, plastic containers, the air, and human bloodstreams, brains, and placentas. In lungs, kidneys, reproductive tissue, and brain tissue. Some of the things that they're finding it's contributing to: inflammation, endocrine disruption, oxidative stress, neurological strain, and toxic load in the body. So what are some of the things that people might be experiencing from having an overload of microplastics? Hormone struggles, endometriosis, PCOS. When I started going down this rabbit hole, I felt a little bit overwhelmed, but I always try to remind myself that fear is not helping. Fear is super stressful for the body, and stress it's not helpful in clearing the toxic load of the body. So I decided to start in stages and figure out what things were going to be most important to me. And for me, it was stuff that was going to go in my mouth mainly, and stuff that was going to be touching my body most closely on a regular basis. We have well water. We do still filter it, but we have well water. If I had city water, I'd be filtering it super hardcore. Not drinking water out of plastic bottles. I don't do takeout and I don't eat processed food. If I want to store leftovers, I switched everything to glass from plastic. So one of the main things to recognize is that heating up plastic releases these microplastics. So if you get a plastic container from takeout, or you have plastic containers and you pop the food in the microwave, and that's the new way that people heat up food instead of on the stove like everybody used to, you are releasing microplastics. Well, there's a whole host of things going on if you're heating up food in a microwave, but you're releasing microplastics into the food. If you have hot plastic water bottles, all of those microplastics are going into the food. If they are putting these heated industrial seed oils into plastic containers, you not only have an issue with the heated seed oil that's going to cause severe oxidative stress in the body, but now you're even putting it in plastic. So those are complete nightmares. So I switched to healthy fats. I switched a lot of stuff in my kitchen. That was one of my main focus points because I knew that that's the stuff that was going to be going into my body. So my cookware. I have a recent blog post I did on kitchen essentials. So if I have any blog posts that are relevant to this topic, I will put them in the description box because I always have links in there and different points that you can go look at. I switched out the utensils I was using to, I have wood and metal and glass. And so most of the things that touch my food are not made out of plastic. I try to store as many things as I can in glass. I try to use loose leaf tea as much as possible. And if I'm going to get a tea with tea bags, I try to make sure that the company is aware of the fact that a lot of tea bags have plastic in them and they are using healthier tea bags. But switching, that's an easy switch, just going to loose leaf tea and getting a strainer for your loose leaf tea. Slowly swapping over your kitchen items. You can even you can find so many great things on Facebook Marketplace and at the thrift store, but I just slowly swapped that over in time. Again, storing things that were going to end up in my mouth in glass containers, things like the toothbrush. I showed you the squeeze bottles for my hair. When I make the herbal water rinse for my hair, I allow it to cool down before I put it in the Bible. I have my Bible here, so I said Bible. Anyway, in the bottle before I use that. As far as things that touch my body, I'm trying to think about how to talk about this in a modest manner, but feminine hygiene products, I switched everything over organic cotton or linen, things that just touch your body directly. I've tried to switch over bedding as much as I can, but undergarments, bras, undies, bloomers. Yes, I have bloomers. I have linen bloomers. Come for me, okay? They're very comfortable and breezy in the summer. I found linen bloomers. organic cotton underwear, things like that. And I've just slowly swapped out my wardrobe. Again, tons of amazing things you can find at thrift stores, on ThredUp, cotton. Speaking of the kitchen, one of the big ways people get microplastics is from plastic wrap. I will tell you that one of the best food preservers is cloth, like cotton cloth that's been coated in beeswax. It is amazing in preserving food longer. Linen bags, glass containers, but the plastic water bottles, plastic utensils that are getting hot as you're making your food, plastic spatula, all of that, and plastic wrap. Plastic wrap is no joke. I think one of the biggest things that people have a hard time with, and the pans, the nonstick pans, and a lot of this came to light with that movie that focused on DuPont that I've talked about before, Dark Waters, the huge lawsuit. DuPont got their chemicals into so many household items, so the nonstick pans and in people's carpets and rugs, and that brings us into the clothing. And I just mentioned to you how I kind of started making the switch. A lot of people don't want to talk about the fact that most of our clothes today are made of plastic. I think some of the most diabolical, again, is the stuff that's closest to our skin, like women's bras and panties and feminine care products. But one of the most diabolical things today is the gym outfits that all the girls are wearing that are basically, you might as well just go, I'm going to say something that people are going to be mad about. You might as well go naked, ma'am, to the gym. Might as well. Those gym outfits, those pants that people are paying $180 for, those stretchies, I'm not going to list a company, but there's a very popular one. Those pants are made of toxic plastics that are leaching into the most sensitive parts of your body. You are sweating. You are working out at the gym. It is not good. It is very bad for your hormones. Listen, at the heart of this, truly at the heart of this is about sitting down and assessing, how can I reduce my toxic load? What's the budget here? What are my priorities? And just realizing that when we steward our bodies and our lives in this way, it's an act of love. This is probably also a little controversial, but I have had times in my life where the budget was not there for certain things. And I have come to the point where I believe with all my heart that God cares about the little things in our lives. And He cares about us stewarding the vessels that He's given us to do whatever purpose He's put us here for on this earth. And I have just asked Him, if this is important to you, like I'm feeling like it's important to me that you put this on my heart, I'm believing that you are going to bring the increase so that I can do this. I don't think that is a wrong thing to pray at all. I think that God is a good Father, wants us to come to Him with all the things that we're thinking about. And if it's not something we need to worry about, we'd be open to Him telling us that too. But I think all of these things are worth it, and I think they're important, and I think they're important to put before Him. I think the things outside of our control are important to put in His capable, mighty hands. But I think it's also important to be diligent and steward out of love and gratitude for Him, out of wanting to preserve the vessel that He's given us, the temple of the Holy Spirit that is within us as believers. It's not about perfection or obsessing or losing your mind, but what can I do today? What can I start doing today? And take my little piece of responsibility, not out of wanting to feel better than other people or anything like that, but out of a stewardship heart. What can I start with today? So I really pray that this video inspired you in some way. If you have questions or comments, let me know below. And if, as I said before, if you're interested in a lot of these natural beauty things, and that's something that you've come to my channel for, that's something that you've enjoyed the most, I think you're going to enjoy some of the stuff coming up later this year on another channel. Possibly 2 more channels. I don't know. We'll see, but you got to stick around. And if you're new here and you ended up enjoying today's video, I would love to have you subscribe so that we can visit again. Keep being real in a world that is getting faker and faker and faker. Okay? Keep it real. Keep it real, peeps. Keep it real. I love you. I appreciate you. And Lord willing, I will see each and every one of you beautiful and precious souls right here on the next one. Bye, friends. God bless.